Feeling so stressed out and desperately need to get distracted from your thoughts? Easy. Open up TikTok and scroll till eternity.
皆さんこんにちは。英語ペラペラです。退屈ってさ、苦労する気持ちじゃないですか。ですが、いい部分もありますよ。退屈の。今回、英語を勉強する人にとっての退屈についてエピソードです。では早速始めていきましょう。
Why do we feel bored? What even is boredom? From what I can tell, it's when we're not occupied with something. It's the emptiness you feel when you're not actively doing something. Whether that thing is beneficial or not is beside the point. Whenever our brain's energy is not directed at something, we feel it. It has a strange power. Boredom makes us restless, like we should be doing something, anything. It's that deeply uncomfortable feeling we get when nothing seems interesting, when time drags on, and when our brain is basically begging for stimulation. But why though? Why does that happen? Why do we feel bored? Well, one thing that you can get out of it is some time that is not going to be burned by some screen-based activity. You get time, in other words, to think, to contemplate, perhaps even to reflect on things. Boredom, for a lot of people, that sense of emptiness, inactivity, that sense of, man, this sucks, I need to be distracted by something, can be really useful. You can take it as an opportunity to think about, well, a lot of things. Think about it. Some of the best ideas, some of the most creative sparks arrive not when we're busy, but when we're idle, when the mind is left wandering. Think about the amount of time doom scrolling has taken that away from you. Doom scrolling, by the way, means it's that thing where you open up a social media app like TikTok and just keep scrolling forever and ever and ever. So yeah, think about the amount of time doom scrolling has taken that away from you. You can think about what your shortcomings are, areas of improvement you need to be aware of. So if you're in school or college, that might be which classes you're falling behind in, or how many assignments you've been putting off and really need to get to. Or if you're in the workforce, in other words, if you have a job, how can you improve your productivity, boost your career prospects, or more everyday things like getting that one task done so that you can have some extra time spent with friends and family, or some extra time spent on hobbies. But you see, therein lies the problem. Whenever we try to think about these things, we get stressed out, extremely frightened by all types of scenarios we imagine. And I'll get to those scenarios that we imagine in a second, but what happens? What happens when we get stressed or overwhelmed by the volume of tasks or things we haven't done? We try to do anything to stop us from feeling just that, from feeling stress and anxiety. We distract ourselves. In other words, we procrastinate. We don't allow ourselves to be bored, to feel or experience boredom. The moment we even feel a hint of it, we grab our phones. But when every second is filled with stimulation, we lose the opportunity to let boredom do its work. We never give our minds the chance to wander, to surprise us with new ideas or anything. And like I said, remember those scenarios we come up with? Scenarios that cause stress and anxiety? Well, a lot of the times, those scenarios we come up with are largely fictitious. As in, they largely exaggerate the problem we need to work on. And by exaggerating the problem, it in turn worsens our anxiety, and so on and so forth. It's a vicious cycle that is even worsened by the attention economy, the economy that relies on your attention, your eyeballs, your clicks, Feeling so stressed out and desperately need to get distracted from your thoughts? Easy. Open up TikTok and scroll till eternity. Bam! 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours go by. And what do you know? All that stress is gone. But it really isn't. And you know it. Deep down, you know it. It's still lurking in the back of your mind. And actually, it's even worse because the severity of the problem builds up. And you lose more valuable time to think, to do, to take action. That is why boredom isn't always a bad thing. Like I said, you can use that time when you feel like there's emptiness in the air, dullness in the air, to take a step back and just think. Just think. Allow your mind to relax, sort itself out, and just focus on whatever is important to you. And hey, it doesn't always have to be something that's grandiose, something that's big or super important. You can think about that one friend you haven't replied to in a while, that one thing on your shopping list waiting to be ordered, that one Spotify list you haven't listened to in a while, and that one movie you've been trying to watch, but time's running out, and it's about to leave theaters. Now, what if you've exhausted every thought you could have, if that's even possible? But, hypothetically, what if, in a given day, you feel bored? And it's not procrastination. It's not you putting things off for later. No, it's just boredom. You feel bored out of your mind. What do you do? In other words, how do we tackle the negative type of boredom? Well, there's a few things. Like getting into a hobby and turning that into a habit. Something like reading. You can get into light novels at first, or some self-help books if you're into that. And start by reading just a few pages a day. Another example, if you're feeling educational, get into research. And not necessarily scientifically rigorous level of research. Like, it doesn't have to be complicated. If you have a topic you're interested in but don't know much about, do some research. Pull up some articles, watch some videos, and read and take as much notes as possible. Remember, we do have the world's knowledge right at our fingertips. But anyways, there's too many examples to count. These were just a few. At the end of the day, we're just apes, man. We're just apes trying to figure this out. Feelings that are seen as mundane and uninteresting, like boredom, could be complex and really hard to navigate. But if we try, just try to approach these moments of emptiness in ways that can better our lives and the lives of those around us, maybe, just maybe, embrace boredom. Maybe sit with it. Who knows what might show up in that empty space. で、ここに終わりにしたいと思います。どうでしたか？退屈だったんですか？退屈じゃないと思って最後まで見てくれたら嬉しいです。すごく嬉しいです。ありがとうございます。いいねとチャンネル登録お願いします。じゃあ次の動画でお会いしましょう。